Welcome to this episode of Rebelle Revealed. We're gonna look at the user interface of Rebelle. Now you might wonder, what is the user interface? That is the whole screen where you're interacting with from where you do certain commands, certain features, certain things. And we're gonna just look at that together now. So the last time we looked at this little welcome screen and we now know all about that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna pick just an artwork, it doesn't matter for now. And once you've gone through that screen, you just have this. This is how it looks standard. Now you can customize all of this the way you like it, but standard it's looking like this. You notice some brushes and some features on this side. You notice a circle, some colors and some other things on this side, and on top are the menus. Now in this episode I'm not going to go through every feature, of course, you see, but just quickly go through the main things. Now the first thing that is important is this one is file. This is where you save your artwork by just file, say save, you type in a name, whatever name you want to type in, and I'm calling this UI, user interface, and I'm going to save it, and now it saves that. And once you start adding certain things, you can just tap the file again and say save, and save another one. And it overwrites the previous version, obviously, and then you get the latest version. Now the other features for now I think I'm going to leave. We're going to focus on what is here and what is here. Now if I move my pen around, you can see there's a little dot there, and this little dot is actually where you're going to paint or where you are going to draw. I think it picks the last brush you have used before, but not 100% sure. But here we're going to look at here. Here you see your brushes, where you pick your brushes, like now I've picked the oil ones, the acrylic oil ones, and you see some things changing here. These are watercolor and there's different brushes. And as soon as you pick a brush, you see this changing here. Because each brush set, you're not actually selecting a certain brush, but a set. So now I picked the Express oil brushes and you get a certain set. You get actually a number of sets. Yeah, the rounds, the flats, glazing you can do, and the grunge brushes. So if I pick this hairy brush, then what you see here, there's some things changing there. Now without changing anything, I can just start painting with this brush, and whatever color it has selected by default, it's gonna paint with. Now you probably noticed one thing. If I'm pressing really soft, it's laying down a really soft layer. If I'm pressing really hard, it's gonna do that thick, and I can change that by even hardly pressing. It's not gonna pick that up at all. So that is the advantage of a pen over a mouse. If I now take my mouse, so I'm now moving my mouse and I'm pressing my left mouse button, I'm going to take this line. I now have no control over the thickness and things like that. With the pen, you have that option to control all of that. So when you select a brush, the properties of the brush are up here, and that is basically the size of the brush. So the larger it, of course, the larger its stroke it does. The opacity you can control by how much paint it puts down, how much it covers it. I'm gonna choose another color for now. So if you put the opacity all the way down, you get nice thick paint, and the lower you can put it, the thinner your paint goes on it. Now the oiliness, in this case it has an oiliness that depends how oily your paint is, and other brushes have different properties here. So if I would go to a watercolor brush, there is no oiliness in a watercolor brush, but what you instead control is how much water the brush uses. So you see these are changing here. I'm going back to those ones. Now the one thing you probably don't see is the length. There are two hidden features. Now to reach those hidden features, if you go up here next to oil, there's a little 3 dots appearing, and you might know them from your phone or your iPad. That means there's a menu there, and if you say show sliders, you can pick the pressure and the length. Now going back to the mouse, if I pick my mouse again, I said I have no control over the pressure, so it puts down whatever it puts down, unless I'm going to now slide this down. So I've activated that, and now you see that faint thing. And So if you would use a mouse, you could use this to control your pressure, or if you want to overrule the pressure in your pen, you could use that feature. So that's some hidden features, some sliders extra. I've got the length, and what that does is basically, if I lower that, that means my stroke is going to run out of paint at some point, and this really quickly, see? And now it's going to run out of paint. So to simulate real life. Now, if you want to keep on painting forever, just don't touch that feature, leave it off, and then you're fine. But if you want to control it, you can use that feature. So picking the brushes here, picking different brushes, and under the brushes there's another menu. You can see some other things, like for example, if I want to blend some stuff, it now gives me a blender brush, and you can choose a different brush and you can start blending colors in nice and neatly, blending colors. The smudge tool, you can now smudge this, do some crazy things with this smudging, pull it and push it and do all kinds of things. I'm not going to go in all of that. You can clone a part of your painting, but the more important one is this one, the eraser, that brings up actually an eraser that erases stuff. And you have color pickers, you can manipulate your painting and things like that. If you have watercolor, you can blow and you can show the water and add water, all kinds of things you can do here, which we're not going to go totally into. At the end of these brushes, you see this, your favorite brushes. You can add a brush as your favorite. So instead of looking for it, where did I leave that brush? Let's say I really like this fountain square pen. What I can do is go over this and say I want to add this, press on the left mouse button and say copy brush to favorites, and now it should be in my favorites, and there are my favorites, a grunge brush and a pen brush. And that is easy, nice if you work on a certain painting and don't want to remember which brushes you used last and which you used exactly, you could add them to your favorites. Now over here we see a menu too. It's on tilt now, or you can choose Navigator. And with the Navigator I can zoom in and zoom out, or use the slider to do that. I can bring back the whole painting at once, and I can zoom 100% the way this would be in real life, this canvas, although it seems rather large, but might be okay. You can rotate with this button and rotate the other way around, or of course use the slider again to rotate, and if all is well, bring it back to 90 degrees. This one flips your canvas around, and for certain techniques that is really handy to flip your canvas around. But this has a second tab. This is the tilt. This simulates how your paint is going to flow and which direction it's going to flow. I'm going to clear my canvas for now. And let's say I'm going to take a watercolor brush. It's on a round brush. Now it's off. Nothing happens. Well, something happens, of course. If I'm going to paint a stroke now, the engine will start working, and this is going to spread out a little bit. And you can see it spreading out slowly but surely. But if I'm going to activate this, I can control how much and which direction it will go. So now it will go up. If I put down a new stroke, and we have to wait a little bit. Now it's starting to calculate. The paint is starting to flow up, and you can change the direction of your paint. This is really fun to do. And you control that. And if you don't want it to go in a certain direction, you just switch this off, but it still will start flowing and spreading a little bit. Until you go to this layers here, where you see a number of options, and you can stop this, pause this. Now it stops flowing wherever it was flowing. You can actually dry this. You have some, you can wet the layer, you can wet it, or you can dry, and now it dries. And if I switch it on now again, nothing has happened. And you can also quick dry the whole artwork by pressing that, and now it stops working as if it is dry paint. So that's what these features here are for, on the layer properties. So that is what this does. Now while we're on the layer properties, this controls what your layers do. You can add new layers. So if I want a new layer on top of this layer, and basically what happens with a new layer is it normally doesn't influence what is under it. Like oil painting, for example. Imagine that If I'm going to oil paint, I'm going to put down one layer. I'll leave it to dry. Then it is dry, and I can put on the next layer and it won't influence that layer that is below it because that is already dry. So that is basically what layering is all about. And you have a lot of features in layering, but I'm not going to go through that in this video. Now the last one I skipped is the color sets. Basically what you get are with Rebelle are a number of color sets. And you can pick a color set and it's changing the colors, and you can pick the color here. So these are pastel colors, I would say. And yeah, that's pastel. If I get oil colors, basic oil colors, you can pick the colors and change the color you want and just pick from the set and pick a different color and work really easily and nicely. If you tap on that one, you get something else. This is the color wheel, and standard is set on the color wheel where you control the color. So if the color that you like isn't in the set, no worry, you just move this to wherever you like and move this to wherever you like, and you get exactly that color. And that is nice for working in tones. If you work from a light tone and want to gradually go to a dark tone, you can do that by picking them basically from here, and as you can see, from light to dark, and you control that. And with the ring you pick the color you like, the tone you like from the set, and then here you create that value you want to change. All right, now that's pretty much that. One thing you could pick easily is black and white. It can switch between that very fast. I'm going to pause the engine because, as you can see, it just keeps on going, keeps on doing its thing, and it doesn't need to do that. If you again move over the color, you have an option here that gives you a menu where you can change to the square. Instead of having a circle with the colors, you can now pick it from a square, and here you control your colors. But there's another option which opens up now. You can now select the hue, the saturation, and the value, control that very precisely with this one. And the circle doesn't have all these options available standard, although you could activate them. And what you would do then, circle, and then you would say sliders, and now you get the hue, the value, and the saturation too with them. So you can influence that, and these should change, or you can just change them now by sliding them around, especially if you know some codes and stuff like that. From a certain color, you can use it here. You can also use the hexadecimal codes here. You can type them in. Often on the internet, they use those values, and if you need those exact values, you just press the three arrows and just activate it. Now the rest is okay. I'm not gonna go through all of those. I'm gonna make sure those are switched off again. I don't want them on. And there you go. Under here you see something called canvas, and what you have here, if you have picked a certain canvas and you changed your mind about it, you just press this button and pick another canvas you like and another color you want to do. And here simply what this does, this hides the canvas. So this is the hiding canvas. If you need to export something, for example, that needs transparency, see, you could use this function and now it doesn't export the canvas. So that's what this one is about. And you see some sliders here that just basically brings up a menu where you can change your presets, how certain brushes behave, and also the nanopixels. If you have that, the Pro version comes up here where you control that, and with the oil and the acrylics, it has the impasto, and some of them have the gloss if that certain brush has it on. So here you control some extra properties of the brush, I would say. Play with that. And right here are the layer controls. Now this one isn't there by default, the clear layer. I like that because now in one button I can clear my whole layer and everything from this layer is gone. To set that on, you need to go to Edit, Preferences, and select General, move down a little bit, and you see some here panels, and it says Add Clear Layer button to the panels, and you can add an export button. It's there by standard. I think I've switched it off because I don't have Photoshop. And you can, if you close a panel per accident, you can just put a warning so that you won't close anything per accident. And now you can, with one press on the button, clear a layer. This one adds a new layer, click. This one groups certain layers. For that you need to have a number of layers selected, pressing Shift on your keyboard, selecting the layers you want. If I'm now pressing this thing, it's going to group them into a group of layers, which takes away the clutter if you have a lot of layers or manipulating too. And I think I might want to undo this. And this one duplicates a certain layer. So layer 3 is selected, it duplicates this. And if I want to merge a number of layers into one layer, that is what this one, the top one selected, will merge with the one under it. Or if you press Shift, select them all, then it merges all of the layers. And I don't want that. Undo button undoes everything. And this one simply removes a layer. So if I don't want that copy of layer 3 anymore, I just press that minus and then that is gone. Now the rest about layers we're going to do definitely in another video, but this is the main overview. You can also resize your panels. If you go to the edge, you see this arrow appearing, double arrow, and you can move it wherever you like, or you can make it smaller so that you get more canvas space. I like it this way, and you can do that with these of course too. There's a number of panels that is standard shown. If you need more panels for certain features which you access all the way, what you're going to do is click on Window, and now you have the option to switch on panels or switch off panels. So if I want my preview with it, then I can add this panel to it, and you can even slide this panel into these panels. I'm not going to do that because it messes up everything. If you have a certain layout which you like, so you have your panels where you want them, you just press Window and you can export your layout or import your layout depending on your workflow, and you can do that. And there's the reset button. If you mess up everything, you can go back to the beginning. All right, and that's it. So you can switch off certain things, switch on certain things, and do that from here. And I think that is pretty much the main thing I'm going to do. If you want this panel, you can move this around. You can move a panel wherever you like, just pressing in the middle, holding it. So not on one of these sides, this will open and close. This will bring up a menu, but if you press pretty much anywhere aside from it, you can put the panel wherever you like. And the 3 buttons give you the option what you want to do with this panel. In this case, I just want to close it. And with closing that panel, I'm also going to close this episode of Rebelle Revealed. So we now know pretty much everything about the user interface, what everything does, how you can mess it up too, how you can restore it. That is an important feature because definitely you're going to mess up that, and at one point you want to bring back what you have lost, so that reset feature is really handy. Now of course there's a lot more in Rebelle, but this video was only about focusing on the main features in the user interface, and I think we know those now.